Welcome back to part 2 of the video series, where I'm going to take you through actually putting this wiring harness kit in the machine and getting it wired up to accept the power unit for the snowplow. Pardon the wind, please. So, first thing I'm going to have to do is go through the wiring harness kit, because as you can see in the box, we have the plug-in for the plow, we have plug-ins or the hookups for the battery, hookups for different things. I'm going to have to go through the wiring circuitry and actually figure out what they want you to wire in where. So I'll do that, and then I will get back with you, because I'm going to have to figure out all of these different pieces, and then I'll show you how to wire it all up. But also make sure, if this is the first video you're seeing, check out the cards up here in the top, where you can go back and actually see me put the plow mount on the UTV, and then hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. That way you can see the video where I actually assemble the power unit, the blade, and mount it all on the UTV so that it's ready to use. And I'll also go through some of the reasons why I decided to purchase a SnowEx snowplow as opposed to, say, a Can-Am Pro Plow or a Cycle Country or one of the other plows that's commercially available for this unit. So with that being said, give me just a minute and we're going to dive into getting this thing wired up. We're in the cab now, so as you can see, I'm in the passenger side, or I guess you could say the right side of the cab. And first thing we need to do is remove the battery box cover, which just this screw, or this quick release I should say, it's kind of a screw. I'll set it up on the dash so I don't lose it, and there's one more right over here, right there. We're going to take these off, set them someplace safe, and then I should be able to pull the cover for the battery box out. Now that we have that out, the battery is exposed, I'm going to get a 10mm, and we're going to go ahead and disconnect our negative and positive battery cables so that we don't accidentally have a short circuit here. Got our battery exposed, 10mm wrench. We're going to disconnect our battery cables. Make sure we disconnect the negative first. That way, if we touch anything metal while we're disconnecting a positive, we don't short circuit the battery. Hopefully this isn't going to zero out all my information on my dash, but we'll see. No big deal if it does. All right, we got the negative off. We're going to go ahead and remove the positive as well, because at some point we're going to have to remove both of them anyway to hook up the leads for the new for the plow harness, excuse me. All right, so positive is disconnected. They're moved out of the way. I'm going to put that cover back up just to keep it from potentially touching the battery. Now, in order to run the wires to the front of the machine, I need to go through, and I have to pull these rivets that hold this floor pan down, or this section of the floor down. So you can use, I don't have my trim panel tool with me, it's at work, but you can use a straight blade screwdriver. Just get under the edge of the rivet and gently work it up. If you've got excessive dirt caught in there, you're going to want to clean that out, because that dirt can cause that rivet to be difficult to get out. And there's 3 of these. Once you get them stood up like that, you can get underneath the whole rivet and pop it out. That way you don't lose it. Just stick it someplace safe. Okay, we got 2. There's the 3rd. Now, with any luck, hopefully I can get this section of the floor out without having to remove my AC box, which I am. There we go. I'm going to set it off to the side, and now you can see here all my lines for my air conditioning. I do have a bundle of accessory wires hiding down here for tying in additional accessories. These are all actually color coded to the front of the machine. It's a really nice setup. Now I'm gonna have to see if I can find a spot up here or on the outside of the machine where all these lines actually come out from under the floor, where I could pass that harness through. So give me just a second. Once I figure that portion of it out, I'll bring you back and show you. Okay guys, I had to turn the steering wheel. Well, it's not all the way to the left, but it's a good ways to the left to get some more room in here. And then this panel down here is held on by these 3 Torx head screws at the top. For some reason, Can-Am in their infinite wisdom decided it was a good idea to rivet it at the bottom so you can't get it out. But what I was able to do was to take the screws out of the top so I could get a pry bar in there and just pull it out a little bit to give myself a little more room right here. And then I went from the inside, took a piece of stiff, this is actually electric fence wire, but it works well for this, bent a little loop in the end of it right there and slid it through from the inside going out, so that I now have a spot where I can try and fish my wiring through, hopefully. This is the harness. This is the plug-in that goes on the outside for the plow. These are the this is what needs to come through the firewall, this end of the harness. So you've got your 2 leads that attach to your battery cables. You also have this plug-in. Now the hard part is going to be getting that plug-in to come through the firewall easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some tape. I got some duct tape, and I'm going to tape that down to the rest of the harness in a manner that will A, hold it in place, and B, try and remove some of the sharp edges. So I'm just going to wrap it down. I'm going to try and wrap over the end of it in a manner that will allow it to not have as many sharp edges on it, so that it can potentially slide through the spot in the firewall without getting caught and hung up. Now, if that doesn't work, I'll come back and I will show you how to actually pull the pins out of the connector, which I don't want to do that if I don't have to. But if you absolutely have to, you can pull the pins out of this connector. Then you're just fishing the wires through, and then you can put it back together on the inside. So now that I've got that taped up, I'm going to come up to the front. Now I can take my positive and negative battery lead, and I can loop them through with any luck. There. Okay, so that's the trick. I can send the hook through the leads. Come on. And back. Now I've got a good hook on those. Take a pair of pliers. Tighten that down. Take another small piece of tape and wrap it. Just there again to get rid of sharp corners and kind of hold everything in place. And then with one arm out here on the outside, I'm going to try and feed the wire down through the firewall. The smaller connectors are through. Now I need to see if I can try and open this up just enough where I can get this larger connector, if I could keep the rest of the harness from getting hung up on absolutely everything, down through. Which, it's going to put up a fight, I can see that already. I got it jammed in that far. Let's see if I can pull it the rest of the way through and into the cabin. There we go. Come on, Bessie. There. All right. Okay, so at this point, I was able to weasel that through with this connector on. You can see I've got the end of the wire loom right there. It's come through to the inside. Out here on the outside, I've got the rest of the wire loom here. I'm gonna I need to get this routed so I know how much extra I have on the outside. We're gonna feed it up through here, follow the AC lines. With any luck. I want to make sure I keep this away from any hot or moving parts, so I'll have to tie it all. I'll tie it all off once I get done with the install. If I can just get the connector to make this corner. There we go. Get that out of your way. And we're going to take this, I'm going to try and slide it through right in here. If I can find the spot again. Right up there. That way I can bring it out through the grill area at the front of the machine, and it's protected and it's not dangling down near the suspension. And you can see up here, if I can get my fingers in there and grab it, one of those pliers in here and get a hold of it, I'm right behind the grill right here. I'm going to gently, I don't want to damage my grill or my connector for that matter. I'm going to feed enough wire harness around that I can bring this out. There we go. Right through the grill, just like that. Now I can tie it off. It can ride here. It could ride right there all year long if it liked. It's going to have a protective cap over it, and then it puts it right in the middle. When I hook it up to the plow, it's nice and handy. So right out there in front, and it should be just fine. We'll just tie it off to the grill where it's out of the way. Okay, now we've got that routed where we want it. So back here, we do have just a little bit of extra harness come inside the cab. Now, in here, we have, once I untape this end, I could unbend my fish wire, get my battery cable ends off of it. I'm gonna have to pull just a little more through the firewall. I thought I had enough to get to the batteries, I need a little bit more. So reach out to the outside and just push it right on through. Just plain, nice, easy, simple. Now I've got enough to get across to the positive side. I've got enough, or excuse me, I'm getting backwards here. I've got enough to get across to the negative side. I can reach with the positive side. I'm gonna have to pull a little bit more so I can make that corner and make it nice and neat though. Okay, so now I know the positive is long enough. The negative needs to be long enough to come back underneath the battery box, back underneath where this panel is going to mount. So that should do the trick because it's laying with the rest of the harnesses now. So, and just for the sake of keeping it away from any sharp edges, we're going to go through there just like that. Actually, probably be better off to come across there. Okay, now we've got that in. The next piece I need is my fuse block for the positive side. Problem is, I need to find, before I get too far in, God, didn't want to break it. Okay, I'm gonna have to find a suitable mounting location for this. Problem is, it needs to be out of the way of the paneling that needs to come back in here, but still close enough to the battery where it's going to, my lead will reach. So before I go too far, I'm just going to go ahead and connect this positive lead, the short lead. That way I know I've got enough lead. Okay, so real quick, just for the ability to make sure everything fits, I'm gonna flop that back up if I can, get it out of my way. I'm gonna run this underneath. Problem is, that may be too high. Clear that. And I don't want to attach it down there because of the air conditioning lines. That fuse block is in the way of me being able to get the lid on. That would stick out too far. And that I'll never be able to get the lid on. So you see the problems I'm running into here. So give me just a minute, I'll get this figured out and I'll bring you back. Okay, I picked this spot right up here above the battery and go ahead and install this fuse holder, and I can get it down low enough where it's not going to be interfering with the paneling that needs to go over top of it, but I can also get it, hopefully it'll be out of the way of battery removal and installation. Now, unfortunately, they did not supply any screws to install this. I dug around on what I had and came up with some number 8 panhead screws, and the only problem is I hate straight screws with a passion. Okay. Okay, now that's secured to the back wall of the cab. I've got enough cable to make that bend, and it's got to come out straight, and then I've got enough positive to be able to loop through and actually, before I put those on, pull off the washers. One flat washer, one lock washer, and the nut. Leave the other flat washer on. before those go on. Then the 200 amp fuse needs to go in. Then we can put the flat washers and the lock washer back in. Remember, always put the lock washer on the outside next to your nut. And get that one on that side. Oh, 9/16 wrench. Wrench or ratchet or whatever, it'll all work. Now this is why it's important to have the negative disconnected. That way, whenever I'm doing this, if I touch anything metal, I don't create a short circuit. Okay, that's nice and tight. That's nice and tight. Now we can pop the safety cover back on our fuse holder. Let's get rid of that pine needle it picked up. Should, with any luck, just snap right back in. Now we can see in case our fuse blows, but otherwise it's all connected. Now, before we make any other connections, we need to finish up the wiring in here. So we have this wiring harness. So this wiring harness has a 2 amp fuse that just goes to power the controller. Then we have, and this should be our plug-in that matches up with our controller. We need to go ahead and untape the harness that we've got right there. That's what we're plugging into. So very carefully, without catching any of the wires, just gonna cut this because this is Gorilla Tape, so heaven forbid you just rip it off. It's not gonna cooperate. Okay, and it's probably really stuck to flipping everything. Very delicate. Okay, now we're cooking with gas. All right. Okay, so now we can plug that into that plug-in. I'll tuck this down here with the battery cables out of the way of the floor pan. Now this end, under one of your legs. There we go. We're going to take this end and we're going to loop it back up, I think, and get it up under the dash on the driver's side. So I'm going to have to go under the HVAC box. Actually, I'm just going to loop this connector back around right here to give myself a little extra length. And then I'm going to tuck these wires down underneath that hole down. Just like that. With any luck. Will it allow me to do that? Hang on. Hopefully that'll show up, but right back there, there's a joint, and if you come up through the joint just right, which I'm hoping I did, I should be able to lay that harness through there without affecting the way this piece of the floor lays in. So now we're going to go to the driver's side and route that section of harness. Now we're over here on the driver's side, and down here on the bottom, I'm going to try to work that harness in around this AC box and up out of the way where it's not going to be in the way of the pedals, because that would be bad. So we're going to try and get it around to the back of the AC box and keep it out of the way of the pedals. We're going to come right up, with any luck, and take you up top. Set you over there in the drinker's seat, and we're going to pop this panel right here out very carefully. The trick is to be gentle so you don't, there we go. Just a little, oh, well, there, that was less gentle than I anticipated. Okay, so now that's popped out. I can see I actually have a view down in the dash. Okay guys, so down here under the dash, I was trying to show you that I was going to route it up behind where you can see my finger wiggling. There's a metal piece. It won't fit because of this ginormous fuse holder. Now, the other end of this wire, this red wire on this fuse holder, needs to be connected to a positive power source for the hand controller. So the nice thing about the Can-Ams, they actually have a ground and a positive bus right back here behind the dash, this front dash panel. So once you pop that out, now I could tie into some wires and run it to the front, but for a 2 amp power source, I'm just going to connect it right in here on the positive side, and that way I don't makes the wiring nice and simple. So with that being said, I'm going to sit you there and take my 10mm, and I still have the battery disconnected, so that's loose. Now I'm going to take my fuse holder, and I'm just going to take a little bit of this 3M double-sided tape. I'm going to stick it to the back of the fuse holder so that I can stick the fuse holder down, I'll show you here in just a second, to the inside of my AC box, or the back side of my AC box. Peel that off, and then I'm going to reach in here and I'm just going to stick my fuse holder right to the front side of this AC box. Just give it a good push. That way, if anything does happen and it ever blows a fuse, I can just pop the dash out. It's easy to get to, but on the same hand, it's out of the way. You're not going to see it flopping around. Now I can determine how much wire I need. I'm going to leave some extra just in case. That way, if I ever had to pull the fuse holder out, I don't have to take the nut off to get it out. So we're going to strip that back. Stripping back a little more than what I actually need, because as I found when I went digging around, the only ring terminals that I have are the blue ring terminals. If I generously double it over, I can still get a good crimp on it. That's not going anywhere. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then I can slide that right onto that terminal on the bus bar, and we can reinstall the nut. Okay, that's nice and tight. I can put my cover back over top of it, make sure nothing touches it. And we're pretty well done back there. So aside from tying up the wires, so you need to tuck that wire in, I can pop this panel back in. Now when you go to pop this panel back in, you have to get the bottom down underneath the dash first, and it'll latch in place, or it should. And then you can bring the top up with any luck. Yeah, that's gonna go there and there, and then it should rotate up and into position. You kind of have to stretch it out, and then you can lock the top in, and then it'll sit nice and flat. Okay, now we've got that all tucked up underneath. Here is the controller. Yep, all right. There's the controller, and it also comes with this nice little hanger that I can mount somewhere down here on the dash so that I can hang the controller when I'm not using it. I've got plenty of lead here, so what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to find a good spot where let's see, how does that plug in? There we go. There's only one way it'll plug in, and that is it right there. And then I'll tuck that up under the dash, because I want to be able to get, I'm not going to need this controller cord hanging down in my way constantly. So I could, in theory, that might not be a bad place to mount it, because that's where the original Can-Am snowplow controller would be, is right here. So I could mount it right there potentially. That would be a good spot. Okay, so I tied up my cables behind the dash. I routed my wire out this side right above the cup holder, because this is actually fairly easy to unplug when you don't need it. That way when I don't need it, I can actually take the controller, and I'm going to keep the box, and that way I can throw it in the under seat storage bin in the box. It's out of the way, it's not going to get beat up, and then all I have to do is pull it out of the box when I need it again, and I can just tuck that end of the wire up under the dash and you won't see it. Now, as far as the mount, these 3 screws, you're going to have to drill an 1/8" hole, and then they're machine screws. I don't know why. SnowEx, if you're watching this, this is one thing I will request. Give us some sheet metal screws or something that we can run in here, since we're just mounting it in plastic. You know it's going in a UTV. I drill 1/8" holes, and then I ran the machine screws in with the lock washers. They're holding it tight enough, it's not gonna come loose, and it'll just hang there. That's about the best spot I could find for it, and I don't think it's gonna be in the way of my leg. And there again, when I'm not using the plow, I can take this off. If I'm out plowing, or I got the plow mounted, I can have that hanging there. Whoop, there we go. I can have that hanging there, and I can work around it. That's not a big deal. The rest of the time I can just take it off, put it away, and it won't be in the way at all. So got that all tied up. I got the wiring down here tied up. I've got to cut off this one zip tie right here, but I've got it routed back behind this box and up, and then it comes out right here, comes up underneath the dash where I've got it tied up under there. So I'm gonna trim this, I'll trim this zip tie off, then we'll go back over to the other side and get all the paneling installed, get the battery hooked up, and just double check our power. All right, we've connected up our, let's see if I can get that in there. We've got our controller connected. I've got all the wiring pretty much tied up and back where it needs to go. Positive are connected, the fuse is in. Now we're going to go ahead and attach the negative, and that should power the machine back up here shortly. And then I could double check everything, and we'll put all our interior paneling back in that I had to take out to get to the battery and the wiring chase through the floor. Okay, that's nice and tight. Come over. I'm just gonna step in here. We're gonna turn the key on. You see when the key came on, it may not show up well, but that lit up. Hit the on button, and now it's flashing, but it's flashing probably because the snowplow is not connected to it. But there's raise lower, left and right. These would be if I had the four-way, the V plow, which I don't have the V plow. And there's float, push down and hold. You can see the float lit up. Now I'll go ahead and turn the controller back off. Okay, so we know as soon as the key comes on, I have power. Hang that back up. We're gonna kick the key off. Power's off, perfect. That's good. Now I can set the floor back in, put this piece in first. I'm gonna make sure that positive is tucked nicely out of the way. So, got a little piece of it. There we go. That should slide in. Oh, that wiring harness needs to get pushed down a little bit, and with any luck, it should slide in nice and easy. Get it in here. There we go. Oh, the rear didn't latch in. The front did. There we go. Now it's all latched down. We just need to get our small push rivets from earlier. Kind of angle you down here. And just, you might have to squeeze them down just to get them down in the hole. Push down on the floor. Get that push rivet all the way in. And then push the top down. If the holes are oval shaped, you can see the rivet is wider one way than it is the other. You put the wide side of the rivet in through the oval side of the hole, and they go right down. All right, floor pan is now in. So now we've got that in, now it's time to get our battery box cover back on. Hopefully it slides in nice even with that fuse block right there, which I think it should. Okay, go in from the driver's side first, yeah, and then get it all, come on. It's not sitting down where it's supposed to over there. Or is it? No, it's not either. There, that one's in. That one's in. All right. Now that's sealed up. Now our little thumb screws, I guess you could call them, that we pulled out earlier. Now that's all buttoned up. All right, so I just need to pick up the odds and ends pieces. I can put my underseat bin back in, and then we're gonna head up here, which I just need to put in 1, 2, 3 screws down there that I took out. You can see hopefully that I've already tied up this wiring harness, got it kind of zip tied off, and then right up here in the front I just used one zip tie and I attached it to the grill right here just to hold it. That way it's out there. If that causes me any difficulty, I'll change that up later. That's not a major ordeal. We have one last piece to install, and that is our plug cover for the plow. Now if you'll notice on the plug cover there is a bulge on this side There's also a notch on that side. So first thing we're going to do is take the retainer piece. Oh, you may, as crazy as this sounds, you may have to soak that sucker in warm water and soften it up, especially if it's cold out here. But you'll slide that over, it'll lock into this groove, and then once you've done that, you can close it up. Alright, and then you can flip the cover over, and actually before I do that, see, you can see they've got a bunch of dielectric grease in there. Make sure you keep that full of dielectric grease. That'll keep those from corroding. Cover it all up. Now she's all set in the front. You're ready to go. So, with any luck, guys, I'll be able to shorten that into a good informative video for you. Stay tuned, because we're going to come back in the next episode. We're going to get the plow all assembled. We're going to get it mounted to the side-by-side, and we'll do a function check. And then hopefully, by the time you guys see that video, we'll have some snow that'll hit the ground, and I can actually show you how it works. And at the end of the next video, I will also go through the reasons that I chose to go with this plow over, say, a Cycle Country or Can-Am Pro Series plow or anything else. I do have some specific reasons, and we'll get into those at the end of the next video. So, thanks for watching, guys. Don't be afraid to get out there and get your hands dirty. You might have a little fun doing it. Remember, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. That way you get a notification when the next video comes out, and we will see you on that one.